From getting dragged to court for scamming his own mom to facing a 20 grand lawsuit for choking a disabled customer, these are Rick Harrison's nastiest legal battle. The Harrisons aren't new to the drama scene, but their most recent controversy is off the charts because Rick just got a restraining order from his mother. Yep, it's true. Pawn Stars kicked off as a low-key gig in '09, but it blew up in just a few years. And not only has the show been on air for 15 years, it also made the cast rich beyond their wildest dreams. But Rick's on top of the money-making list, stacking up a crazy net worth of $9 million. And these guys might look like the sweetest TV fam you've seen, but off camera, they're all about the Benjamin. And even the 81-year-old Joanne Harrison is hungry for the big bucks. Cuz she just slapped her son with a restraining order, and Joanne isn't letting him anywhere near that family stash. You're probably wondering why she's so pissed at Rick. Well, it turns out that Rick scammed her into giving up 51% of the company's shares. The pawn shop has been around since the 80s, but it's only recently become a big deal. Joanne and her husband, old man Richard Harrison, started the joint together, and she had the majority ownership with that 51% stake. But then she went into a coma in 2001, and she claims that her son duped her into signing her ownership over to him. The old lady also claims that she had no clue what she was getting into, and that Rick took advantage of her mental state at the time. But the old man assured her that it was nothing, and that Rick was just looking out for her shares.
I mean, the guy who wrote poems was as big as a huge author or a really big actor.
Exactly.
She might have gone with the BS back then, but now that the Pawn Stars franchise is worth $25 million, she's not ready to sit back and let Rick have it all. But the old lady isn't exactly broke. Well, at least not on paper, because after Richard died in 2018, his 49% stake automatically went to his wife. And not only did he get a big chunk of the company, but the old man also left $500,000 in silver and $100,000 in cash. And Joanne claims that Rick hasn't shown her a single penny in documents, nor has he told her a thing about the silver and cash. Instead, he was tossing her a measly 25 grand every month, and even cut that down to 20 G's right before the pandemic. If that sounds cruel to you, wait till you hear what he did next. Rick completely stopped sending the checks in March 2020, and she hasn't laid a finger on the Harrison dough ever since.
And I'm offering you more than double what you were asking, okay? I think it's more than fair of me for $700.
But here's a question that'll get your head itching. Why the hell does an 81-year-old even need that kind of cash? Well, it turns out that Joanne's medical bills alone cost 15 grand. That's right, 15K every month. She's going head to head with Rick. But don't let that fool you, because Joanne needs someone watching over her 24/7. And she has a ton of health problems that are draining her bank with an insane 15 grand bill.
It's also weird to me that that's called a bunghole, by the way.
Aye.
I had to say it. That's what that's called. That's called a,
Yes, it is. It is a bung.
Plus, her request for the restraining order went to show that Rick might just be the worst son ever. Cause she said that while Rick is living his best life, calling the shots with the family businesses, his own mother can't even pay her medical bills. So Joanne had no choice but to sue him and keep him from hiding any more assets from her. And after news of the legal battle broke out, fans of the show were shocked, because it's not every day that you see your favorite TV star get dragged to court by their own parent. But it looks like Rick was the most surprised, cuz he claims that he had zero clue about the lawsuit. Come on, Rick, that's pretty hard to believe. But hey, I guess the guy has to play innocent now, because he said that he believes his mother is being manipulated by someone and isn't in her right mind, because otherwise she would have never dropped a lawsuit on him without a heads up. He's claiming that he found all about this legal drama from the news. Yep, sure, buddy. Plus, he also said that he's been trying to reach out to her for the past few months, but got no reply at all.
A gallon could be a different measurement in two different places. It's a gallon.
Well, no, there's imperial gallons and there's US gallons.
But here's the craziest part. He claims that one of the companies Joanne is suing is owned 100% by her. Now that's a major sign that someone else is pulling the strings and using the 81-year-old for their own personal gain.
That's a start, you know?
Yeah,
Hey,
that's definitely
I'm
a
with you.
start.
Well, hey.
We all got to start somewhere.
That's right.
I think you're asking way too much.
Okay.
But for now, Rick is in some deep shit, and he's gonna need way more than these comments to prove his innocence. But the clock's ticking for him. Cues if Joanne wins the lawsuit, then it's a one-way ticket out of celebrity land and back to the streets for Rick. But it doesn't look too bad for him, cause this isn't his first rodeo in the courtroom. Rick and his family have been at the center of legal dramas more times than I can count. Like the time Pawn Stars sued a legit pawn shop in Florida. In 2011, the A&E Network's legal team sent a cease and desist letter to Frank Bishop for having a real pawn shop named Pawn Star. They straight up called it fraud. But if the geniuses had done their homework, they would have found out that Frank's shop had been around way before the TV show had even aired on A&E. And when the attorneys demanded that he change the store's name or face some serious legal heat, they had no idea that Frank had the upper hand on them. He wasn't going to back down to some fancy lawyers and fired back with a strongly worded letter from his own attorney. He pointed out that he had legally registered his shop's name a whole 3 years before the TV show and straight up told them to take a hike. But hey, he did agree to give them the trademark if they paid the right price. Frank said, after all, this is America. You want something, you write a check. So the plan backfired big time. But it's not always the Harrisons' fault. Sometimes it's the big shots like the A&E Network, because A&E were sued for $5 million for stealing the Pawn Stars. You heard that right. The family got caught in a legal battle again in 2012. But this time, none of them were the defendants. Instead, it was all about A&E's two top execs. Venture 1AB had signed the whole Pawn Stars cast in 2007 and claimed that they landed them the gig. That had become the most watched reality show in America. But the Harrisons dumped the agency soon as they hit the fame train. Venture accused DeBeacon Donahue, the A&E bigwigs, of convincing the cast to drop them and instead signed with their buddy Michael Camacho, an agent from UTA. So they demanded a fat $5 million payout to make up for the future commission they'd lost. And while the rest of the family has been safe from trips to the court, Rick and his old man are the MVPs when it comes to legal battles because they were once sued for 20,000 big ones by a customer. It's no secret that things get tense in the pawn shop. Sometimes the pawnbrokers get scammed and sometimes they drag out customers and throw them out on the sidewalk. True story. Way back in 2012, Daniel Callahan brought his Model 96B rifle to the shop looking to get a price on it. But things went downhill real quick. Cuz Callahan got into a heated argument with the father-son duo, and he claims that Rick and his old man put him in a chokehold and kicked him out of the store. But hold on, because it gets way worse than that. Callahan was 62 years old and a war veteran. On top of all that, he was disabled, and they even damaged his cane and rifle. Well, Rick's already proved that he's not the best son in the world, and he's definitely not a decent man. But the war vet wasn't gonna let them off the hook that easy, because he went straight to court and sued both of them for 20 grand. But Rick's son, Corey Harrison, came to defend his family, saying that Rick and Richard weren't even in the shop when Callahan came. Instead, he put it all on his employees, saying that they claimed Callahan kept screaming and scaring the rest of the customers, and for that, they kicked him out. Now, I don't know why Corey thought that would have solved the problem, because it just sounds even more wrong. But no one trusted a word coming out of his mouth, because all of a sudden, the lawsuit went quiet, which was probably because they settled the matter out of court, or in other words, paid the old man to keep his mouth shut and sweep the whole mess under the rug. So from facing a 20 grand lawsuit for assaulting a disabled customer to getting dragged to court for scamming his own mom, those were Rick Harrison's nastiest legal battles.